Good morning, everybody. Welcome to your Rangers Review morning briefing. It is Friday, the 5th of December. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined this morning by Blair Malloy. How goes it, Blair?
Good morning, Derek. How are we? Yes, doing well, doing well. It's Friday, so we've always got a little bit of a spring in our step on a Friday afternoon going into the weekend, regardless of
Always.
what kind of football is on. We do have the unusual kickoff time this week of 8 p.m. on a Saturday night. I don't know who thought that was a good idea, but apparently this is a new world we're living in now. That games can happen on a Saturday night at 8 o'clock, and that is just deemed irregular. So I thought we could have some fun this morning, Derek, and ask the listeners, if you're watching along live with us, what is your favourite game under the lights? What is your favourite nighttime kickoff? Because there's a few of them that stick in my mind. I was having a think this morning. I think my favourite might be all the way back in 2004, 21 years ago, would you believe? It's a League Cup game against Celtic at Ibrox, if you remember rightly. It went into extra time, and I was only young at the
Also,
time, but I remember staying up
yeah.
late, and Shota Arveladze scored the winner at what felt like midnight. So that was one of my favourite games under the lights midweek, at an unusual kickoff time. So let's see what the listeners have to say, what their favourite games of days gone by were.
Yeah, you don't often get that these days. Old Firm games on a midweek. I remember a few years ago. Remember that the game that Celtic got called off when Giovanni Van Bronckhorst was in charge, and then Rangers went to Parkhead in February and capitulated. I think is that maybe the last Old Firm midweek game. But certainly in the 90s there was a host of them, and Rangers more often than not came out on top. Already get some suggestions coming in, Blair. Graham says PSV Eindhoven 1979. I think PSV were unbeaten at home in Europe, and Rangers went over there and beat them on their own backyard. So, Rangers actually should have went on to the final that year. I think Forest won it that year, but they went out to Cologne, if I'm not mistaken, in the quarterfinals. But Mays says, he says, I know what you mean, Perso and Arveladze with the goals on
He does
that.
correct himself in the next comment, to be fair.
Yeah. Lewis says Rangers being Dun United in Walters final game.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember listening to that on the radio. You never get matches on TV as much back then, and it was a on the wireless job, that one. But interesting stuff. Do get your suggestions in, folks. Good little snippet there, Blair. Now, before we crack, we're going to do a little bit of a Q&A as well today. It is press conference day, incidentally. We'll hear from Danny Rule and whatever player is put up for the press shortly after 2 p.m. And I did on a cyber pint the other day. I did say that Manny Fernandez may be the player that's put up, Blair. So hip hooray for me. So I got that bang on.
Yeah, you got that one absolutely spot on, Derek. Next time I see you, I owe you a pint of whatever you're choosing, for calling that correct. I don't know if you want to go again today, and we'll try double our quits to see who's going to be coming up today.
Let's do it then. I'll let you go first. Mugs away, as they say.
Okay. I'm going to go with, because of that absolute scorcher he scored the other night, I think it might be Jaden Megoma. I think that he's not spoken too much. He is quite a good talker the few times I have spoken to him, and it's a nice, easy one to discuss your first goal in senior football. I think he'll be the one that's going to come up.
I think that's going to be bang on, I think it will be Mr. Megoma. I'll go slightly different. Try to think who can speak in that squad that we haven't heard from much or whatever. I'm going to go with Max Aarons. There you go.
Max Aarons.
I don't know. I don't think we'll all hear from him, but there's your bonkers bet on that one. Some other suggestions. Look what you started here, Blair. Mark says a big Contimans 40-yard screamer in the semi-final at Hampden. Yeah, absolutely.
You don't get players that shoot like that anymore, Derek. I don't know if I'm getting old, but it just seems like players don't take on shots like that as much anymore.
No. That was absolutely sensational. I think nearly fell over when I seen that bet. Contiman was much maligned, and it surprised everyone, but he bust the net last night, and forever grateful for that moment. But Mr. Big Bertie, and there's a point as well. Now, where's the point I was going to bring up? This point on Leeds. I'm just pressing buttons here. I don't know what I'm doing. Let's see. Yeah, Blair with a point. Rangers v Kiev 1987 was good. And there was a couple of points came in about the Rangers Leeds game as well, which is absolutely up there also. Right. Quick word for our podcast sponsors. I realise we're nearly 5.5 minutes into this. Willows Fencing, the Glasgow-based fencing company you can trust and proud partners of the Rangers Review. If you're needing a new fence, folks, then these are the guys to call. They've got over 20 years of experience in the fencing game. No job is too big or too small. And you also get free consultations and 10% off if you use the code Rangers Review over on their website, which is willows-fencing.com. Did mention it's press conference day, Blair. I've not had you on since you were up at you were up at Tannadice, weren't you? If I'm not mistaken.
No, I was watching from afar, but I was working that evening, so I was taking it in. I don't know whether that was a yes. I don't know whether that was a good or a bad thing, to be honest. Myself and Joshua were on straight after the game. Yeah, we're discussing it straight after it, and I think that a lot of sometimes when you do these post-match reactions on the whistle, they can be quite heated and you can be quite emotional because of what you've just watched and you're trying to distance yourself from it. But I feel like everything that I thought at the time is still ringing true a couple of days on. I think Rangers, what they did do was they managed to create chances, which was the serious issue against Falkirk on Sunday, that they just weren't creating anything. Now, they did manage to rectify that. They did manage to get the ball forward, and they did manage to get the ball in good areas. But as it's been spoken about everywhere, the quality up front simply just does not exist to put that ball in the back of the net. I think they had almost 3 or 4 times higher XG than they did on Sunday. I know Josh is always good at peddling those figures, but it is true. It is true that they did look so much more likely to score. And if you have just one player who can put the ball in the back of the net, it throws a completely different light on that game altogether. We were talking about how much they need in January, how much they need to change the team. And my argument was, if you have one proven goal scorer, you just need to change one position from that game the other night, and Rangers win that game comfortably. It's just, they're so badly lacking a presence in the box, so badly lacking someone clinical, because you look at all the 3 centre forwards, Danilo, Bojan Majowski and Yusuf Chermiti, and it just looks like their confidence is shot to pieces. Every single one of them had a big chance the other night. Danilo, the one he should take first time, and he lets a hit off him. Majowski, the one that's coming on, he's probably has the hardest of the 3. It's coming about hip height, and he can't quite adjust and get a shot away. And then I think the lesser said about that Yusuf Chermiti header, the better. It's just it's a golden opportunity. You see his teammates round about him, the way they react. They just can't believe that he's not burst the net with it. So yeah, I think that was really the season in microcosm. The fact that none of them could manage to put away any of these guilty chances that the players made for them. Couple that with the fact that on Wednesday night, the defence then seemed to take a backward step, because they actually looked as though they were making a bit of a step forward against Falkirk. They actually looked as though they were maybe finding a little bit of cohesion and maybe finding a little bit of a partnership in there and partnerships across the back. And then they looked absolutely all at sea on Wednesday night. It's just some of the defending was amateurish. The way that Emmanuel Fernandez get turned for that first goal, the way that him and Nasser Giga just weren't dealing with things confidently. I thought James Tavernier had a poor game. I just thought that the whole back 4 just looked all over the place. Jayden Ngoma aside, defensively, he wasn't brilliant either. He, of course, pops up with that absolute rocket, which really saves his performance. But it seems as though when Danny Rose starts to maybe sort one aspect of the team, the other one dips down, and it just can't get any level of consistency across the board.
Yeah, can't argue with any of that. We said it on the show yesterday when I was on with Johnny. Rangers need work in both boxes. We've been banging on about this. Everyone's been banging on about it, of course. Whether Rangers are active and get players in at the start of January remains to be seen. I think that has to happen. Whether it does happen and whether it's likely is a different thing altogether. But yeah, it can't continue. My concern, Blair, and I put this to Johnny yesterday. By the time Rangers go to Parkhead, I'm expecting them to be double figures behind Celtic, I've got to say. And then you're looking at it going, Are you recruiting players for the short term for this season to try and salvage something, to try and get, like I said there, I think that the title race will be out of sight by then. I hope to be proven wrong on that front. Or are you recruiting for next season so that you're not chasing your tail, if you like, in the summer and you're ready to go at it from the off?
It seems that so many times over the last few years, Rangers have got to January and they're already going, oh well, we'll just recruit for next year, and
Yeah.
it seems as though they get to January and there's nothing to play for in the final 6 months of the season, or it's always well, if we start building now, then we can maybe be good to go in June or July, and the cycle continues to repeat itself, which I think a lot of Rangers fans are just becoming tired by, and they're just losing interest in this
I
constant
know I am.
narrative of, oh, yes, yes, absolutely. It's we'll maybe get there eventually. We'll maybe get there next season. Next season will be the season, and next season isn't good enough, to be honest. It has to be. It has to be now. I did say a couple of weeks ago on the pod, I think it was on with you and Josh. I said I think that Hearts will start to falter, and I think we're seeing that come to pass now.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah. Well done.
I think I could see that the consistency wasn't quite there. Don't get me wrong. I do think that they will they will finish the season in still good position. I think they'll comfortably be third, but I just don't think that yet they have the sort of the winning mentality, the muscle memory to go the full length of a season, to go the full course, to stay up there. That's not to take away from the job that Derek McInnes has done. I think he's put together a really good team there. I think they've spent very, very well, obviously in comparison to Rangers, but I just don't think that they have enough to last the distance. So that was always when I was speaking in the last few weeks about. I thought that Rangers were still in the running for things. I thought there was still a lot to play for. That is all predicated on Rangers winning the games that they have to win. Falkirk at home, Dundee United away. You have to go and win these games if you want to be in a title race. Because if we look across the city, as much as we don't want to admit it, Celtic once again are proving in the last few weeks that they know how to get games over the line. They know how to win games, even when they're not playing well. And that is unfortunately where Rangers do not have that cutting edge at the minute. They do not have that ability to turn draws into wins. They don't have that ability to go and capitalise when they're on top of a game. Because I think everyone will admit, I think Celtic fans will admit that even by their own standards, they've been very poor this season. Really, really poor by comparison to what they've been. And somehow they find themselves with the momentum charging ahead at the top of the table. And if Rangers could have just put those, I say easy, those wins that you would expect of them together, all of a sudden you start to apply the pressure, and then you get to January and there's still things to play for. I'm not saying that's completely dead in the water yet, but if they go to Rugby Park tomorrow night and they don't put on the kind of performance that comes away with 3 points, then all of a sudden you are starting to get to that point that you spoke about, where you're in January going, are we recruiting to try and salvage something from the end of this season? Or are we then looking ahead to next season and once again we're writing off 6 months of the year because we've already made a mess of it between August and December?
Yeah, absolutely. A few comments coming in about what Rangers need, and we all know what they need, folks. Potty Bobag says, we need a season centre-half to guide Fernandez through games and a centre-forward to stick the ball in the net in January. George has been on a scouting mission. He says, I was at the Paphos v Aris Limassol recently. Goldson and Balogun, in my opinion, are better than what we have. You mentioned that yesterday, George. The pair of them walk into this team, and I'm prepared for the abuse in the comments on that one, but I don't think there'll be too many disagreeing with that, with what is being served up this season. This is a point, and at risk of sort of repeating herself, Blair, Gio raises this issue. Sound like a broken record. Play Cameron, any midfielder with 16 goals, 8 assists is well worth being a creative midfielder, something like those stats. I was amazed that both he and Findlay Curtis never got on the park on Wednesday night. I've got no idea what's going on there. Johnny, by the point yesterday, said if anyone's expecting them to be game changers for Rangers and improve them massively, is barking up the wrong tree. But that being said, we've got no idea if they're going to improve Rangers or not, because they're simply not getting an opportunity. My argument would be, well, Cameron especially, I thought he would be a bit of an unsung hero for Rangers this year. but he's not really got much game time. I get he had that little niggling injury, but he's ready to play. He knows the league. I thought he would have been well suited to playing against Dundee United, given his background on Wednesday night, and given that he knows the way to goal. I think Rangers are crying out for someone like that. Is it perplex you why he's not getting an opportunity, Curtis? Also,
Yeah, maybe not so much from the start, because I can maybe understand why, in terms of Lyle Cameron's position, he maybe doesn't fit into the 4-2-3-1 that Danny Rule was playing. I think maybe he likes that sort of second striker playing in the number 10, and then you've got Connor Barron, who I think he quite likes as being a sort of getting around the park, and then you're not going to drop Nico Raskin. So I can maybe understand why not from the start. I don't understand why he's not brought him off the bench. I'll be honest. I think that Tello Asgard has used up more than his fair share of his chances at Rangers, and I think that it's unfair that Lyle Cameron didn't even get an opportunity. If we take it in a slightly different direction, I know we've spoken about this quite a lot this week, for Findlay Curtis, I'd be getting to the point where if I'm Finlay Curtis, I'm saying, I want to go on loan because I want to go and play football. The kid's good enough to play first team football, and he's sitting there on the bench at Rangers like he has done, like so many kids have done before, and he's not getting an opportunity. Now, I fully understand that when you get into the Rangers first team, when you get a sniff of being in and around it, it's a very, very hard thing to walk away from, because you'll be the same as me, Derek. You met a lot of footballers in your time. The one thing that always shines through is that they always back themselves. They always have that unwavering confidence of going, no matter who's in front of me, I'm better than them, and I should be in that team. And I think you need that to really become an elite level sportsman. But for Finlay Curtis, if he is sitting there watching every week, chance after chance go by, that can't be good for his development. It can't be good for his career. And is he just going to end up as as another player that Rangers had in their books that they always thought was going to be good? He ends up going somewhere, getting an opportunity, actually shows what he can do, and before we know it, people are saying 5 or 6 years down the line, "Oh, we should bring Finlay Curtis back," or "Oh, we should have gave Finlay Curtis a chance." Well, this is the chance. This is the time now to actually show what he can do and give him the opportunity to make mistakes, give him the opportunity to fail, because we're never going to know otherwise. And
yeah.
if I'm Finlay Curtis and I'm sitting on that bench, I'm thinking, I need to play football. I need to go out and go and show what I can do. And it's not his fault, because I think every time he has had an opportunity, he really has shown it, and he really has came in and made a difference in the team, which I think is more frustrating for Rangers fans, because this is not a kid that Rangers fans are thinking, oh, he's completely untested. We don't know what we're going to get with him. Let's just throw him in and hope for the best. This is a boy who's came in and scored big goals already this season. Scored against Panathinaikos, scored against St Mirren away from home. These are big goals when Rangers needed them. So the fact he's not getting an opportunity from the start, off the bench, it bewilders me a little bit. And like I said, if I was him, I'd start to be looking, going, is Rangers actually the best place for me?
Yeah, on Curtis, I remember he scored that goal against Panathinaikos, and one of the discussion points on the show was I hope Rangers don't burn them out and they're too over reliant on him this season. But it's gone the completely opposite way. I'm with you on it. I don't want to see him going down the route that we've seen young boys, a la Alex Lowry, Leon King, Adam Devine, even Bailey Rice to an extent as well, just stagnate at Rangers. I don't think that does him any good whatsoever. So yeah, I'm with you. If he's not going to get much game time, and I'm not counting just coming off the bench like last weekend against Falkirk, getting a cameo here and there, I want him actually featuring a lot more. If that's not going to happen at Rangers, then he has to go out on loan and play games elsewhere. Ideally, always say this, preferably not a loan to a team in Scotland. I would like him to go either down south, would probably be the best bet, a lower leagues in England or abroad. But Johnny raised the point yesterday, Blair, and it's a valid one. When was the last Rangers player went out on loan and excelled and then came back in Dunmill for Rangers? Really struggling to think of anyone. I think Charlie Adam did well, to be fair. That aside,
Charlie Adam at St Mirren, I was going to say, I think that might be the last one that actually went out and really performed well and then came back and was decent.
Yeah, so there you go. Alan McGregor, of course, did well for Dunfermline at the time, was at St Johnstone as well. But you're going 20 plus years back, really, aren't you? So, yeah, it's a difficult one.
Yeah, it's a tricky thing because it's something that I don't know if it's maybe just I've been out of that, lost track of it a little bit, but it always seemed to be that when you had a young player coming through and they weren't quite ready to make the breakthrough, the normal thing or the the thing that you would always see happen was just go to another team and just go and play, and just even if they're on the
Yeah,
periphery, just go and get them out there and actually get them playing football, and then you've got so many things you can add in, callback clauses, you can add in all sorts of things. They can't play against you, all manner of things to make sure it does work for your advantage. But now it seems to be that the only reason Rangers ever send a player out on loan is because they want rid of them. And Rangers don't ever seem to use the
yeah,
loan market to their advantage.
no,
You look at guys like Robbie Fraser last year going out on loan. He was never coming back into the team. I think everybody knew that. As soon as he went on loan, we knew Rangers are just gearing up to sell him. And it seems to be that way that every time a Rangers get a young player in, instead of actually going and giving him the minutes somewhere else, they just send him out on loan because they want to put him in the shop window to try and get shot of him at the end of the season. So yeah, it's a bit disappointing in that regard. I always think that if you've got a young player like that, go and let them play football. Go and let them, like Finlay Curtis is a perfect example of this for me. He should not be sitting on the Rangers bench every week this year.
nah,
He is good enough to go and play. So why would you not send him out to a Kilmarnock, to a Dundee, to a St Mirren? Go and play every week. Go and make those teams better. And it also works twofold. That if you've got a player that you've brought up and developed, and you put him out to the rest of the Scottish Premiership, hopefully they go and then take points off your rivals. You're strengthening people who can go and help you out with your side, and then he doesn't play against you, so it doesn't weaken you any. That
yeah,
always seemed to be like a quite a surefire tactic, and all of a sudden, it doesn't seem to be utilised anymore.
yeah. Paul and one or two others saying Dowell had a good loan spell. He did have a good loan spell last season with
Yes.
Birmingham City, but he's not exactly came back and set the hell of a light at Rangers, has he? He's been the forgotten man, although he played for the under-19s, didn't he, last week? But not had a look in since. This is an interesting point as well. A few mentioning Bruni says Antman is Finland's Player of the Year. How do Rangers turn good players bad in such a short period of time? I think, I've seen this. I think it's more to do with his form last season for Go Ahead Eagles more than anything else. But he's now injured for upwards of 2 months with an adductor injury, which I know when we reported it from the press conference the other day, fans were saying great news and all that sort of stuff because he's been off the boil ever since that impressive debut against Pilsen. He has been poor. Perhaps this is a bit of a blessing in disguise just to go reset and try and get a bit of form back when he does return. But the point on that, man, he's been one of a number of disappointing signings. Blair, is there a player in there though for Rangers? Do you reckon? Can they get something out of him?
So I was a big defender of Oliver Antman. I always did think that he wasn't showing his best form because Rangers weren't using him particularly well because he's not really playing in his best position because I think he gets 16 assists last year in the Eredivisie. So he's obviously a player. He's obviously got something, right? Winning the Finnish Player of the Year. Obviously there is something there. My concern is, and this has been true of so many Rangers players in the past, that Go Ahead Eagles are not Rangers and they do not play like Rangers and they are not expected to win and dominate games like Rangers. And when you sign players who come from teams where it's okay to lose and it's okay to sit back and it's okay to where teams are going to come out and attack you and try and dominate you, and you can hit them on the break, and you've got a lot of space to run into, and you've got space in front of you to go and attack the byline, then I think you can look good, as Rangers have done in Europe for the last 4 or 5 years when they've struggled domestically. How many teams would have, how many players look better in a Rangers European team than they do in a Rangers domestic team? Because
Yeah.
they were playing on the counter attack, and I feel like maybe Oliver Antman's suffering from that a little bit. I think he might be the wrong horse for the wrong course. Unfortunately, I think he does have a something about him, and he does have a lot of ability. But I think that the way Rangers play, it doesn't seem to be utilising it, because I watched him against Falkirk on Sunday, and again you can see there is a player that does have some technical ability, and obviously is not poor, but he was just running into trouble all the time, and he was running down blind alleys, and he was starting to panic with the ball, and you could see that it just wasn't working. And I was like, this is a guy that doesn't look happy on the pitch. He doesn't
No,
look comfortable on the
you're
pitch,
right.
and I don't know whether that's. I don't know whether that's a positional thing. I don't know whether that's a mentality thing. I don't know, but it doesn't look like a guy who, contrasting to his debut, he looked unbelievable. Like, he was flying. I have very rarely have I ever seen a player hit the ground running quite like he did that night. Because I remember sitting in Ibrox in the press room. He'd signed 24 hours earlier, and
Yep.
he was straight in the team. And everybody was sitting there going, "Oh, that's a bit of a gamble throwing this boy in." And instantly he made a difference. And I was like, "Wow, Rangers have finally done the thing that I've not seen them do for a long time, and they've signed somebody who's good enough for right now. They've signed somebody who's a game changer."
Yeah.
And after that night, and this night will be studied because it's the one example of this Rangers team
A good
that
team for
they just
building.
look. Yeah, they just look completely different to the
Yeah.
rest of the season. But that night he looked unbelievable. He was so quick, his speed of thought, his speed of movement, getting to the byline, taking men on, going past men, his link-up play with Gassama on either side. Fantastic. It was really, really excellent. And
Mm.
since that point, it has just disappeared. It's not even gradually went down. It has just disappeared completely. So I think there obviously is a player in there. There obviously is talent in there. And I just hope that Rangers figure out how to utilise that, because I've got no doubt that if Oliver Antman departed these shows to a team that did suit him, then he would do well.
Yep, I wonder if it's a bit of that, and he certainly looks a player devoid of confidence as well. So perhaps just time out the team. He can sort of try and build himself back up, but we won't be seeing him anytime soon, that's for sure. Big thank you to GG Racer. He says, guys, mind hit that like button, smash the subscribe to. Absolutely, buddy. You tell him, as Derek and Blair are the Dream Friday team. So there you go. Thank you for your kind words. Yeah, hit that like button, folks, if you are a big fan of the show this morning. Still a wee bit of time if you want to get your points across to myself and Blair. Just some other suggestions about famous nights under the lights. Mr. Graham says, the older Champions League group games under lights. I seem to remember us winning 3-2 against a Greek side. I think you mean Portuguese side Porto. I was at that game, and Ibrox was literally rocking at the foundations. Big
Did we also win 3-2 against Stuttgart? Was that 3-2 as well?
Twice against Stuttgart. I think they're both 2-1 wins. There was
2-1? 2-1.
Yep, Nerlinger.
I remember the one where... Yeah, I remember the one where Charlie Adam cut inside and scored an absolute raker. I can't remember if that was 2-1 or 3-2.
That was a run to Seville run, that one. Rangers won over there. I think they
lost to Manchester.
They lost 3-2 over there, I'm sure. Barry scored a great goal, I'm sure, over there, if I'm not mistaken. But Rangers always seem to play Stuttgart back in the day. There you go. Keep your suggestions coming in, folks. And I noticed a few people mentioning this. I got a few messages on social media yesterday. Quick Fix says that I'm in the top 0.7% of Rangers Review viewers, according to my YouTube wrap-up. This deserves a shout-out. Well done, buddy. Thank you for your support. You have fantastic taste in your YouTube selections, that's for sure. So well done to you. Not many were sending me their Spotify raps and all that sort of stuff that they tune in regularly to the review. So thank you to each and every one of you for your support. This is a point that I wanted to bring up before we wrap things up tonight. Dana Life says, what's your team for tomorrow night, lads? We'll get a clearer picture of who is available and who isn't a little later on. But if there are no new injuries in place, just off the top of my head, Butland, I think, will start. Given the plastic pitch, I would like Dujon Sterling to get an opportunity, but there's absolutely no chance you're risking him on that. So probably Tav, there's only so much you can do with that back line. Giga Fernandez and Magoma, midfield, Barron, Raskin. I would like Cameron in there as a 3. When's that? 4-3. I'll stick 3. I'd have Bayrami, Curtis and Gassama. There you go. There is my Rangers team. And but I'm incidentally needs a shout. He's been good for Rangers in the last few games, so I think he's deserving of keeping his place. He's certainly picked up form, which is a bonus. Your thoughts on the team, Blair?
Yeah, I think I'd probably go much the same as yourself there, Derek. I think you'll probably stick with Majowski up front. I would say as a sort of focal point, just to try and give him a little bit of confidence and try and maybe get him on the score sheet. I think that Bajrami definitely worth a mention before we go this morning. I listened to his post-match press conference from Tannadice the other night, and he said something that really stuck with me, and that he said he was confident. And that is something that just none of this team seem to have just now. When he stepped up to take that penalty, you could see that he really backed himself to score it. And that kind of confidence is infectious. That kind of confidence can spread to other players in your team. And hopefully Nadeem Bajrami can try and pass that on to some of the players who look to be so sorely lacking it at the minute. I think he's been given a bit of a raw deal, Nadeem Bajrami, over his time at Rangers, to be honest. I know he didn't start brilliantly. He was a bit of up and down, and then he seemed to get frozen out of the team altogether. And every time he came in, he looked as though he was threatening. He looked as though he would do something. But there was a lot of people who had wrote him off and thought that he didn't really have a future at Rangers, especially when he's left out of the European squad. And then when that happens, you think, oh, it's a matter of time before this guy's sold. And don't forget, this guy wasn't cheap. This was somebody who Rangers spent the best part of £3.5 million on. You know, this is a guy who.
Yep.
Philippe Clement definitely did want in his side and definitely did sanction spending a good bit of money on. So it shouldn't be put down as just a throwaway signing. This is a guy that Rangers backed. And I think that now he is showing a little bit of form, a little bit of consistency. And I think when you have such a dearth of that in the team, that I think you need to stick with and you need to grab onto anybody that's got that bit of confidence, because I think you need it. And I think he should be guaranteed a start tomorrow night, and probably should be guaranteed a start going forward anyway.
Yeah, keep it up, Nadeem. We'll finish with this. We've beaten the 0.7% supporter. CGNI says I got top 0.2% in my wrap up. So there you go. We should send you out some sort of prize for that. I think I'll speak to the boss man. We need to get some sort of mugs or something. Incidentally, you can't buy.
I don't think I'm even in the 0.2, Derek.
Incidentally, you can get Rangers Review merch, folks, over on the website. There's a whole host of things that you can buy, but we'll need to get some sort of prizes lined up at some point. But there you go. Right,
just,
that will do.
A wee shout out before we go. Just sorry to interrupt you. There will be a special show tomorrow morning. One of me and Joshua's Saturday tactical shows. People have been quite kind about them, leaving nice comments where we take a little look at the numbers behind Rangers, a little more in depth about the stats and the tactics. And this week we're going to focus on why Rangers aren't scoring any goals. And I believe we may have a special guest appearance from Johnny this week in the studio. So he will also be throwing his 50p worth into proceedings as we discuss why the Rangers strikers aren't finding the back of the net. So that will be out tomorrow morning, round about the same time as usual.
There you go, folks. We've got you covered on the weekend as well. Right. Enjoy your Friday, whatever you're up to. Remember, it is press conference day, so keep your eyes peeled for that from Danny Rule and whatever player is popped up for the press. If I don't speak to you, enjoy your Friday, whatever you're doing, and we'll chat again soon. Bye for now.